We continue now with a conversation I recorded last night with Nora Ephron, the film director whose new movie, You've Got Mail, starring Tom Hanks and Meg Ryan, is getting very good reviews. Part 2 with Nora Ephron. Thank you for continuing part 2 of our conversation.
Pleasure.
Let me talk about you and your sister and how do you two write together? I mean, does she start the sentence and you finish it? How does this teamwork work?
I will tell you quite honestly, I'm not sure. We sit in the same room, and there's a computer and a chair. And sometimes she sits in the chair, and sometimes I sit in the chair, and sometimes the other one sits on the couch.
Right.
And then we switch at a certain point, sometimes 3 or 4 times a day. And we talk, we do very, very long outlines of of the movies we do. Very long, very detailed outlines, so that when we actually get to writing the script, it's kind of half written. And that's sort of it.
How are you different as writers? Same instincts, same sense of humor, same...
Delia says that we've become more similar as writers, and I think that's true, that we've kind of gotten things from the other as it's gone along. I know that when we started out, I had done more screenplays than she had, so I knew a little bit more about structure, but now it's pretty even on that count.
Roll tape. This is where Joe Fox rescues Meg Ryan from the cash-only line at Zabar's here in New York City. Look at this.
Rose. That is a great name, Rose. This is Kathleen. I'm Joe.
And I'm Henry.
Henry, how are you? Happy holidays.
Now, here we are at New York, a landmark. This city is you. You can't imagine, even though you spent a few years in Los Angeles, living anywhere else.
No. Can you?
No, I can't.
Okay.
I mean, I grew up somewhere else, and I said today, in fact, someone was in Washington making a film, and doing an interview, and someone said, wouldn't you like to live here? It's a beautiful city. I said, no.
No.
I'd like to live here, where I live, where we're going back to in about an hour. So we also have this city, which is mad about high tech now. There's Silicon Valley East.
Well, you know, one of the things we wanted to do, Delia and I, when we started thinking about this movie, was to make New York feel a little bit like the village that Budapest feels like in the old movie. And the truth is, the other thing we wanted to do is, I think we all understand that New York is a series of little villages, right, that we all live in sort of 3 square blocks where we know the dry cleaner and the butcher and the guy who sells you the paper in the morning and the person at Starbucks and the florist. We did stuff in the movie where Meg buys flowers from a pregnant florist, and the next time she's at the florist, there's a sign in the window that says it's a girl. Now, of course, no one will notice that stuff but me, and now perhaps you.
Yes.
But we were trying to get across that thing that people simply don't get about New York, which is that you can live, you know, a kind of wonderful life in this city with children and dogs who are not unhappy.
Right.
And
it's not a cold, faceless place. It's a place of community.
It really is, and these are, you know, you're a little urban family, and everybody has that. You see the same fathers and kids going to school in the morning, and mothers pushing their kids, and they grow up, and everyone knows, blah, blah, blah. By the same token, that's also true about the Internet.
What do you like most about making movies?
Oh, I think, you know, what do I like most about it? What I like most about it is that you get to collaborate with an amazing group of people, and they all bring something to the project, and it is unbelievably exciting. Compared to what I used to do in my youth, which was to sit alone at a typewriter, it's absolutely, there's nothing I don't look at in this movie and not see, oh, that was so-and-so's idea, oh, thank God she's wearing that. You know, all that stuff that happens when one talented person after another comes into a movie. So I think that's the thing I like the most about it.
I'm watching this movie at the New York premiere. I turn, and a couple of seats behind me, there you are watching it with your husband. And I thought to myself at that moment, she must have seen this 50 times.
No, not that many times, but somewhere.
But my point is, do you see something different most times?
Well, most times, it's interesting because you can do something to it. So your mind is engaged by every frame of the movie. You're going, is this too long? Is this too short? Did I get the laugh I want here? Should we cut this line? Should we make this louder because we're losing the laugh if the blah, blah, blah? There's always something to be thinking. When it gets hard to watch is when it's done. And you can't fix.
It's done. It's
anything.
Over. Right? This is,
you know, so
this pie's been baked,
but
folks.
I've seen it only, 3 or 4 times since it's been finished, and now I'm not going to see it anymore.
Really?
Yeah.
For another year or another whatever?
Oh, if I turn on the television set and it's on, I'll watch it.
Won't be on the TV set for a while.
Well, but you know what I mean.
Yeah,
I'm not, it sails away.
But do you see things still, though, when you watch it the 3 or 4 times after you had finished it, 3 or 4, whatever it is? Did you see something, or did you say, whatever, it's it, I can't even think about it?
I wish that I said, I can't even think about it. But no, of course, you always see things that you go, couldn't I just have...
How do you like the idea of that you are the director, and you are le général? You are in charge, and you can move these pieces. And if you don't like it this way, you can turn it like this. If you want to put these here like this, it works just fine, and it's your choice. And you know, if it doesn't work in the editing room, you can just throw it away.
Well, it's not that simple, but I do like it. I'll tell you the thing I like the most. I like that if it doesn't work, it's my fault. One of the worst things about being a screenwriter is sort of saying, don't look at me. He did it.
He, the director.
He took that perfect script that I gave him, and or she, or whatever. The point is that at least this way, I have no one to blame but me. And I really prefer that to passing the buck.
You became a director because you wanted to protect your own screenplays?
I think there were 4 or 5 reasons. One was that I think the most important reason was that every time you write a screenplay, you have to find someone to direct it. And the way you find someone to direct your work is to delude them into thinking that the movie that they're committing to is somehow autobiographical to them. And often to do that, you have to do a lot of changing of your movie so that they can find their way into it and give a year of their life to the project, a year and a half, 2 years sometimes. There were things I was writing that I didn't want to push around for someone else. They already felt personal to me. So that was one of the most important things. You know, if you write about women at all, it's a very short list of people who want to make movies about women.
List of directors?
Yes,
right.
That's what I mean.
And even fewer studios.
Well, you can get a studio if you can get a good director, but it's just a very short list of people. The nightmare for screenwriters of finding the director. There are so many screenplays, and there are so many fewer directors than there are screenplays. So enticing one of them, hooking one of them into your project. So that was another thing. Another reason was that I was approaching what we call middle age. And
approaching middle age.
And it's tough for screenwriters when you turn 50.
See, now let's get to that. The notion of directors screenwriters, after they're in their 50s, it's not quite as easy because they're looking for new material,
Absolutely.
new ideas, whereas directors can live until they decide.
Well, not forever, but you have a longer shelf life as a director, and so it seemed to me that I was protecting my ability to go on writing movies if I directed a few of them. So that was one of the main reasons. Well, then, of course, I did it, and just doing it became the reason to do it because I really did enjoy it. I really liked it, and I didn't even know what I was doing in the beginning. Now I'm starting to know what I'm doing, and I really like it.
This was in your blood, to write.
Well, to write was, but of course the last thing I was ever going to be was a screenwriter.
So you couldn't wait to get out of Hollywood,
Couldn't wait to get out of L.A.
So you get out of L.A. and you go to Wellesley College.
Right.
You graduate from Wellesley College and you want to live in New York. You come to Manhattan. You get a job as a researcher for Newsweek magazine?
Mail girl.
Mail girl.
Mail girl, yeah.
What does a mail girl do?
Just what it sounds like. Delivers the mail.
You take the mail around to the people?
There were no mail boys, actually,
Is
but
that right?
there were mail girls.
Because mailroom is where a lot of people like Barry Dillon and others started at these agencies.
At the agencies, yes, where there were no mail girls, by the way, because that was a... If you were a mail boy at an agency, you would eventually become an agent. If you were a mail girl at Newsweek, nothing ever really happened to you, except that you kind of continued to serve men forever. First, you were a mail girl.
Yes.
And
then you were
Then
what?
you were a clipper,
Yeah.
which was
Up
a
the food chain.
tragically horrible job, where you sat with a ripstick and a grease pencil and chopped up 50 or 60 American newspapers and routed them to the department that your college education had sort of prepared you to think was the right place for it. So if they discovered a cure for cancer in Baltimore, you sent it to the medicine department. And
we need these here.
And
at our show.
then I became a researcher, another job that was held only by women.
Yeah.
And that meant that the men would write the stories and then you would check them.
And at some point along this road, there was a strike, a New York newspaper strike.
Right.
And they get somebody to do a parody. Was it Winchell or Leonard Lyons' column?
Leonard Lyons. Victor Navasky was the editor of Monocle magazine.
Right.
A short-lived but legendary
Later to
humor
become
magazine.
the editor of Nation magazine.
And Victor got some money to put out parodies of the New York Post and the New York Daily News.
Because they weren't being published.
They weren't being published. This was way before anyone knew what these parodies were. So when they actually came out, they were a giant disaster because people thought that the strike was over and put down the 10 cents or something that it cost to buy a Post. But of course, our papers were trying to be sold for considerably more than that so we could get some money. The point is, no one read these parodies except the staff of the newspaper.
Right.
And the editors of the New York Post read it and wanted to sue. And the owner of the Post,
Infamous Dorothy Schiff,
said, don't be ridiculous.
Hire
if they
her.
can parody the Post, they can write for it. Hire them.
Yeah.
And that's how I got a tryout at the New York Post.
And so you're now writing, and you're now a reporter.
Yes.
I mean, this must have been a happy time, huh? I mean, this is what...
Oh, no, it was bliss.
Why did you grow tired of journalism?
Well, I don't think I grew tired of journalism, but, I mean, I'd never made a decision that I was going to leave journalism. But when I had my first child, I had just started to write movies. And I thought, well, I can't go on doing journalism because I have a baby and I can't go and do these long reporting pieces that I was doing in Esquire. And I was writing columns, and they all required sometimes a week, a month of going away and reporting a story. I couldn't see how I would do that. So I thought, well, I'll just go on writing movies for a while, and then I'll get back to my real work. But then I had a movie made.
What was that?
Silkwood.
Oh, Silk was the first one.
And, you know, once you have a movie made, you're in big trouble because you don't want to go back to anything that isn't as much fun.
It's because it's that much fun.
Well, it's so interesting. And also, I knew I was, however old I was, 39 or 40 or something, some horrible age like that I thought was so old. But the point is,
a mere so many years ago.
however old I was at the time, I was suddenly watching something that I knew nothing about.
Yeah.
And on a set that Mike Nichols was the director.
And Meryl Streep is the actress.
And
Cher.
I was riveted. There are people who say, oh, being on a movie set is really boring, but it isn't boring if you're engaged in some way. And I was riveted by what they were doing. I'd never seen it done. Really, I'd never sat there day after day. And I'd never watched somebody work with actors as Mike does. So I didn't want to go back.
You've never seen people work as actors as Mike does. What does that mean?
Well, I mean, I had never seen a director directing actors day after day.
Does he do it differently than other people you have seen?
Well, you know, Mike always says this thing that I love. He says that when you're a director, you he said it's like making love, in that you always want to say, is this how other people do it? Because you've never seen anyone else do it.
Exactly.
I actually have seen more people do it than Mike has, because I've been a screenwriter. But I haven't seen that many people do it. Mike is very gifted at talking to actors. He knows what to say to actors. He knows how to feed them without giving them too many notes, without telling them all the dangerous words like, you know, you're never supposed to use an adjective with an actor unless the adjective is faster. That one you're kind of allowed to use. But Mike works with metaphors in a kind of exciting way, and he'll say to an actor, oh, it's like that moment when you were in high school and you thought that no one was ever going to, whatever, fill in the blank. The point is that he tries to plant in their heads some experience he's had that they might be able to connect to without telling them what to do. You know, basically make it possible for them to find their way into the joke or into the line or into the emotion. He'll never say, no, I want it to be sadder than that, or I want you to be more anxious than that, or nervous, or any of those words which you would be gunned down by the Actors Hall of Fame for using. So
he's one of the people that you've learned the most from?
Yes.
Rob Reiner.
Rob also, yeah.
What you get from working on the set?
As I said, the thing that was so exciting about watching Rob was that he'd come from television, and so everyone could bring an idea to him. And of course, there were Billy Crystal and Meg Ryan, who are brilliant at having good ideas. And Rob was it was a completely different way of working. It was much more, there were many more hands involved in the script, and rather than my feeling violated by it, I thought, well, this is great. This scene just got funnier. Someone just walked through the room and made that scene funnier.
So the screenwriting will say Nora Ephron, but a lot of other people made it.
Absolutely, yeah.
Do you look at other movies and think, man, if I could do it that well, how does that person do that? How do they reach that whatever?
Oh, sure. But I'll tell you, you know, there's a moment in Goodfellas, for instance, to name a work of art that is so close to my own oeuvre. But there's a moment in Goodfellas when Robert De Niro turns from the bar and takes a drag of a cigarette, and you can see in his eyes that he's going to kill Henry Hill if he possibly can. And I saw that movie 5 or 6 times because my husband wrote it, and I just could never get over that moment. I could never get over it. And I had done one movie when I saw it. And then I saw a documentary about it.
The making of Goodfellas.
And how they did it was that shot is in bare slow motion so that you can't tell. And that's why you can see everything that's happening on his face. And I thought, oh, slow motion, that's a good idea. Do you know, I mean, I was such a babe when I started out doing this, but the point is that you do start figuring out, how can I get this to happen? Oh, I see, and it's something I used in Sleepless in Seattle, and I'm sure no one would ever connect those two movies in any way.
You did Slow.
Yeah.
With Tom being slow, so you see...
Well, Tom, when he first sees her in the airport, when she comes to Seattle to meet him, and he sees her, that shot is in, you know, just, you know, 4 frames slower than normal.
How do you choose what you're going to do?
Oh, well, you don't. One of the weirdest things is that it's casting that chooses it for you in a way. I mean, what a lot of directors go through is that you have a couple of projects you'd like to do, and you kind of put them out like fishing lines and see which one gets the biggest fish to bite. And that's what you do next. A lot of the time.
Someone said of you, there was this recent piece about you. Richard Cohen. You saw that story?
I know. Poor Richard, yeah.
Tom Hanks.
Right.
Meg Ryan. Scared of you.
Oh, no, but they were all kidding.
Were they really kidding?
Well, I think so. I mean, I think...
Are you sure?
Well, no, I think... I'll tell you what I honestly think. I do think that there probably are...
It's your wit that they're scared of.
Yeah,
they think that you will leave them...
But I never have.
Inferior. Well, why do you think they said it?
Well, because it's like if I just think they think I might. I don't know. I can't explain it, but sometimes when I hear that that's what people think, it amuses me. What can I say?
And pleases you a little bit. It's kind of amusing
sort of,
and interesting.
I mean, it's, you know, I'm working in a guy's world. It gives me something. It's not the worst thing. So I don't think about it very much because it doesn't seem to come up much in my everyday life. But every so often I read
that you are an intimidating factor.
I do hear that sometimes, and then I just go.
Who, me?
You know, yeah, I do a little bit.
Do you really?
Yeah.
A little bit? No.
Yeah.
Or you know it's there, but you're not aware of how it works.
Well, I think...
There's a presence that's
I
a kind of...
I think without being a really dreary feminist, I do think that smart women are often thought to be frightening. And so I think it's partly that. I do.
That if you're smart, people think...
Well, I just think it... You know, it's someday no one will think that because they will be used to lots of women working where they
now,
work.
You just said the word dreary feminist, which I mean sort of a whining feminist is what I assume you meant.
Yeah.
But when you got ready to direct, it was primarily women that were responsive and wanted to give you a break because they believed in you and said, here is somebody that needs a chance.
Yes, absolutely. But the guy who greenlit my movie was Joe Roth. So
it's a combination.
Yeah.
How many movies do you know already that you're going to make now? How far ahead are you?
Oh, only one or two.
Really?
Yeah.
You don't want to get too far ahead, or?
Well, no, because I have one script that I'd like to do, and then there are a couple of other projects that I'm connected to that I'd like to do, but you know, I'm not at the moment. I'm mostly thinking about reading some books because you get to a certain point at the end of a movie where your attention deficit disorder is just out of control. You really can't. I mean, we ended up in the mix. Everyone in our sound mix got addicted to a video game. We were fighting with one another to get on the computer.
Video game?
This was a game called Snood, which I had never played. Have you ever heard of it?
No.
Oh my God! It was like you mainlining. You know, I don't know.
Whatever's good for you, mainlining it.
I mean, you could hook someone on it in 30 seconds. I've never seen anything. Oh no, I left it behind. It was in that room. It's gone. It's not even singing a little siren song to me. Although just talking about it is making me miss it slightly. But
thank you for coming.
Thank you.
Pleasure.
Thanks. Nora
Ephron, You've Got Mail opening around the country. Thank you for joining us. See you next time.